Hello, fellow Inquisitors. Split Persona here, and welcome back to part 2 of our Psycher class breakdown. In the last one, we went over character, passives, your starting weaponry, we went over your starting attributes. Today, we are going over your Psycher powers. Now, in order to get to these, once you've completed the tutorial and you get to your command bridge, you can come over here to this terminal that says Psychic Powers. Once you click on that, you have access to your actual library of what is available. Most of these will be locked behind a level requirement. Most of them will unlock by level 20. There are a few that will unlock depending on what class you pick after level 20. I believe it's up to like 22. So you have 4 classes. You have Biomancy, Pyromancy, Divination, and Telekinesis. If you guys watched my tutorial video that I did for Season of the Void Brethren, I ran this particular character, and this was my Pyromancer. Like, everything about it is just burning enemies to the ground. I had Molten Beam, I have Fire Form, I have, Firestorm, all that stuff is devoted directly to that. So this is a very fun class to do. So I'm very particular to Pyromancy, but we will go over each of them in turn. Biomancy, you have Bio Lightning, Endurance, Warp Speed, Hemorrhage, Constrict, and Enfeeble. So what we're going to do is I'm going to load up the hotbar here with all the powers. We're going to do this for each of the 4 groups. We're going to load up every single power. We're going to jump into a map, and I'm going to show off what each of them does. And we're just going to discuss how it functions and go from there. Okay, so I've loaded up my hotbar with all the skills for Biomancy. Now, I did not augment any of them, and I'm not going to for any of the other ones, simply because those are things that will change how the basic power functions, and that is basically a gameplay change, in my opinion. The augments are something different. But we have Bio Lightning, Medium Range, Piercing, Shock, Path, AoE. Medium Range Force Discharge that deals warp damage. We have Endurance, Self, and Blessing. Blessings are something unique to Psychers in the fact that you can cast them upon yourself or others. The target gains 10% max HP, 1% max HP regeneration, lasts 90 seconds, reserves 25% warp heat. Masteries affect this value. Only 3 blessings can be activated at any given time. Hemorrhage, long range. Area effect, hallucination, bleed. Long range area attack that deals physical damage and causes heavy bleeding. Constrict, long range. Armor breaking, single target. Deals warp damage to a single enemy if the target has no suppression bar or its suppression status is overwhelmed. Enfeeble, long range. Area effect, stun, and slow. Long-range area attack that deals no damage, but stuns or slows enemies. And then the last skill we have is Warp Speed. Self-Blessing. All weapons gain 25% damage bonus, 20% cooldown reduction. Lasts 90 seconds, reserves 25% warp heat. Masteries affect this value. Only 3 blessings can be activated at any given time. So what does all this mean? So, Bio-Lightning does this. It basically allows you to cast out, basically, Warp Lightning. Now, this here is your warp heat, this little bar here. And as you can see, the more I cast something, you can see it's slowly starting to fill up. 15, 10, 5, it's counting down now. So, Endurance. This here is a blessing. This gives me plus 10% max HP and 1% max HP regeneration. So but it reserves 25% of my warp heat, meaning it will lock 25% of this bar out and fill it up automatically, permanently. So if I activate this, you can see that this filled up to 43 out of 189. So I'm going to start using warp heat from this point, and it's going to count upward from there. Now, warp heat has 3 stages. As you go up, you're going to encounter more and more warp anomalies. You'll be in the green state, then you'll go to the yellow state, then you'll go to the red state. I don't remember exactly what the exact terminologies are. I'll have to look it up again. But as it goes up, it's going to generate what's called a warp anomaly. Some of them can be helpful. Most of them will hurt either you or your allies. So you do have to watch and manage this warp heat. These powers are normally free. You can cast them relatively quickly, no resource, no nothing. But you do have to watch. Let's see if I can't get this to go up to the next stage here. Yep. And if you look, my screen just changed there. Right there, I'm in the unhinged, and right there's an anomaly. That's what we just triggered. Those explosions were an anomaly. Now over here is another one. This one's a beneficial. That just automatically dropped my warp heat completely back down. So you can get both good and bad warp anomalies. You just have to know which ones are which as you go along. So, Hemorrhage. This is basically a long-range area effect cloudburst. You set it on a group of enemies, deals a lot of physical damage, and causes really heavy bleeding attacks. You can augment all of these to do different things. This one, you're going to want to do it so that it does a lot of armor damage, because you're already doing a lot of damage to begin with. This one here, Constrict. Let's see if we can't find right here. You actually have to target an enemy. And it does that. And as you can see, even my other powers are doing quite a bit of damage. But because Constrict here says deals warp damage to a single enemy if the target has no suppression bar. He has no bar here. So we're going to hit him, and he is instantly gone. This one has to... It's very specific on how this one works, because you need either A, no suppression bar, or it has to be an overwhelmed suppression state where you're down into, the red. This one, you can just cause a mass amount of damage. Enfeeble doesn't deal any damage at all. However, it does slow enemies and stuns them, which is very nice. And then the last one is Warp Speed. This one is a blessing, same as our HP booster that we just used a couple seconds ago. But this one only works with weaponry. It gives them a damage bonus, and it gives them a cooldown reduction on any of their skills. So if you're running, skills or anything like that, this will work very well. If you're running a bunch of weaponry and you only want to run one or two, psychic powers. So let's go through here, and unlike the other ones, we're going to stun them, then we're going to hemorrhage them, and then we're going to just nuke them out of existence. So ignore this here. This is the shield here. That is coming from some of my relics and armor and pieces that I have. But unlike the other videos, we're just going to do a live commentary as we go along. So once again, we're going to stun. We're going to deal that. And then we're going to stun and hemorrhage you. And yep, it just deals a lot of damage. So that is your Biomancy. A lot of potential for bleeding attacks, area attacks, AoE attacks, damage over time, stuff like that. Okay, so the next one we're gonna do is the Pyromancy, and this one is definitely my favorite. I am not gonna lie, I'm a bit of a firebug when it comes to games like this. I love my fire. So, the first one we're going to have is Molten Beam, Long Range, Piercing, Channeling, Barrage. Channeled beam attack that deals heat damage. Firestorm, Long Range, Area Effect, Burning, Long Range area attack that deals heat damage and ignites targets. Inferno creates a column of fire for 2 seconds that seeks out enemies and deals heat damage. Spontaneous Combustion, area effect, single target, burning, long range attack against single enemies that gains 1,000% damage bonus against burning targets. Secondary effect. If the target is killed, it explodes, dealing AoE heat damage to enemies within 5 meters and causing burning. Oop, this one. Extermination. Self, area effect, and channeled. Summons a column of fire on the nearest enemy. The column follows its target and deals heat damage for 5 seconds. Holding the attack button creates an additional column per 0.5 seconds on the nearest enemy not yet targeted by one. And then the last one we have is Fiery Form. Self, Blessing, and Aura. Deals heat damage in a 3-meter radius around the caster every 0.25 seconds and gives 15% Supreme Heat Resist, 20% damage bonus, 30% heat damage bonus, lasts 90 seconds, reserves 25% warp heat. Masteries affect this value, only 3 blessings can be activated at any given time. So, these right here, this Molten Beam, this is normally my primary whenever I run this group. So, it's basically just a giant fire beam. And it's very, very cool. Firestorm, point on the area, and you just nuke them. It's just basically one giant fireball nuke that you just drop from orbit. It's very, very fun. Inferno is a column of fire that will just seek out enemies and just go from one enemy to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and just burn enemies, okay? These two here need targets. So we're going to go see if we can't find some enemies. But before we do, we're going to activate our blessing. This one here. Basically what this does is we get a ring of fire, and anyone that enters it, and I can show you right here, will take damage. We can even destroy, you know, objects and everything else around us. So, the first thing we're going to do is, right here, we're going to activate immolation, or spontaneous combustion. It does do some damage, but it does more damage against a target that is already burning. So make sure your targets are already on fire. This is very good if you're fighting a boss. If the boss is already lit by some of your other skills, especially if you put on this one here, Molten Beam, a damage over time effect on it, where it causes the burning effect, this combined with it is very good. So now we're going to activate this. This is Extermination. Extermination just rains fire down from the sky.
Inquisitor, but it's never too late for vengeance.
Oh, shush. Quiet, I'm talking. So, as you've seen, there were multiple columns of fire that just came down from the sky. That is Extermination. Extermination, and as you can see, it really generated a lot of warp heat. So we're going to do it up here again, and you can just keep walking around and just call down multiple beams of fire. This one is your crowd control. You run the risk of building your warp heat up to the max within just a few seconds. But you just hold down that attack button and you will instantly start wiping out large groups of enemies. It does extremely well. And then, like I said, we already talked about our blessing. We already have that active. So that is, like I said, it is very much a really good damage dealing class as far as what you can dish out with this. And as you've seen here, we just dropped a nuke down on that group and it just wiped out the whole group. And then right there you've seen the column. It's just going and trying to seek out enemies. That is that Inferno. It's seeking out the enemies and it's just destroying anything in its path. So the Pyromancy class, definitely raw, pure damage. 100%. And if you skill it up right, you can pretty much just start beating bosses left and right, no problem. So that's the Pyromancy class. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is Divination. Now, Divination is going to be totally different than the last two. Whereas the last two, you are going to be using your Psycher powers offensively. This one is mostly going to be defensive. Most of your blessings, okay, say that you can only have 3 blessings active at any given time, blah, blah, blah. Most of your other classes only have 1, maybe 2. Divination has 4. There are 4 blessings, and you can only have 3 active at any given time. So, what are they? You have Divine Shot, Self-Blessing. The first hit on each target deals plus 100% damage. Last 90 seconds reserves 25% warp heat. Mastery affects this value. Same as every other blessing. This down here, the whole last 90 seconds reserves 25% warp heat. That is across the board for any blessing. So you don't have to worry about that. The other blessings are these. Death Orgy. Self and Blessing. A protective ward that, on taking lethal damage, prevents death and heals the character to 50% HP and 50% suppression. Foreboding. Self-blessing. The target gains 55% physical damage bonus. Projectile spread is also reduced by 4 degrees for skills with spread. And then the last blessing, Misfortune. Reduces the armored and heavily armored enemies' damage reduction values by 40% to 0% and 40% damage reduction respectively against the caster's skills. The only two other powers that you have that are not a blessing is Precognition. Self. Gives character level 100 energy shield on use. And then you have Empyrean Hail. Long range, area effect, and shock. Summons multiple bolts of warp energy that fall to the ground, creating damaging areas in a 2-meter radius at the impact points. So you really only have one offensive Psycher ability, one defensive Psycher ability, and 4 blessings to choose from. This one here, Misfortune, is if you're going up against a boss. Basically, it drops their armor value and their damage reduction. Basically, it allows you to deal more damage to them by dropping their armor values. Not really something you're going to be wanting to run all the time until you run up against a boss. This one here, Foreboding, this one is a physical damage bonus. This is if you're running something like a shotgun or anything along those lines. The reducing the spread by 4 degrees, again, that is very helpful with a shotgun. This one here, Death Augury, I believe. I can never pronounce that word. I apologize. This one is fantastic. Basically what it does is, when you take lethal damage, instead of dying, your character heals to half your HP and half your suppression. So you basically get a free half life, in other words. So let's activate that now and just to see what it looks like. And again, it takes 25% of our Warp Heat bar. Foreboding, same thing. That's going to take, 25%. But we're going to wait to do that. Divine Shot. Basically what it does is, when you first hit an enemy, you're going to deal plus 100% extra damage. Okay? And if you're able to one-shot a lot of the individual enemies while this is active, that is extremely helpful. As far as this one, this is by far, in my opinion, the most powerful one in the game. Precognition. Gives character level times 100 energy shield use. Watch my shield bar over here. It completely maxed it out. Okay? I have one tanked out shield. Okay? And that shield will be used up before my health bar and my suppression bar get used. So I have basically a free health bar because of this skill. And that doesn't go away. That will stay there until I take damage. And then we have this one, Empyrean Hail, which is basically just an AoE, meteor storm that you can just call down from the sky. So let's see if we can't find some enemies, okay? Which we are going to activate Divine Shot. Okay. And right now, our warp heat is at 50%. So we are going to definitely be generating some anomalies. So right there, we did do a lot of damage. Drop some more down. Like I said, you are not going to be dealing any sort of activate our shield because we were starting to take damage, but our shield is instantly back and is full. So drop this down. Alright, let our thing recharge. Drop this down on them. Again,
these ones are
you're
lucky
not
to be
going to
alive.
be dealing...
There is more that need your help.
Shut up. There we go.
At your command.
You aren't going to be dealing a lot of damage with this one. You will be dealing some, but the main purpose of this grouping, this Divination subclass, is survivability. You are not going to be dying because of A, this skill here, and B, your shield that you're going to be constantly generating. Because every time you... if you can get this cooldown dropped lower, you can just constantly keep spamming that. Okay? And, oh, right there. Right there's another warp anomaly. So we have to watch because, see, this one's damaging us. So we're just going to run away from that and stuff. And that's the thing. Even if we're not casting anything right now, the mere fact that we have our warp heat up so high is going to start generating warp anomalies. That is the side effect to this class. If you have all these blessings activated, you will be generating your warp heat up higher and higher than any other class, more than likely. So, if you're going to be running this Divination class, watch your warp heat, because you're definitely going to be dying more to the warp anomalies than probably enemies, because those warp anomalies are no joke. So that is the Divination. Okay. So the last subclass of the psychic group is, well, of the Psycher class, I should say, is psychic. So we have Crush, Long Range, Area Effect, Knock Down, and Knock Back. Long Range single target attack that deals warp damage. Telekinesis Dome creates a 6-meter radius force dome that moves with the caster. Allies under the dome have plus 30% supreme damage reduction bonus against range attackers. The bonus does not apply against attackers inside the dome. Duration 10 seconds. Shockwave. Self-area effect. Deals warp damage around the caster within a 6-meter radius. And then Assail, slow projectile, knockdown, knockback. Long range attack that deals kinetic damage in a 2-meter wide streak and destroys cover. Maelstrom, self area effect, channeled, high suppression. Channeled area effect attack that deals continuous warp damage to enemies around the caster regardless of cover. And then we have Levitation. Self. Toggles on or off levitation skill. Provides plus 25% movement speed and the ability to bypass traps and mines undetected. Using any other skill automatically turns levitation off. So we're going to start with this one. So basically what you can do is you can turn this on or off, and if you see these mines up here, I can literally hover over the mines and I can still get shot and everything else and not have to worry about anything. However, if I stop or I use any other thing, it drops it off and it puts me back on the ground and it turns it off. So levitation is very much a turn on and just move around and not have to worry about anything. As you've seen, right here are the mines, okay? Let me turn it back on. It's on, and I am literally hovering over the mines, and they are not doing anything. I turn it off. Wait. Okay, let's do this. Now it's off. There we go. Now they triggered. Sometimes it's a little bit glitchy with turning it on and off for some reason. But yeah, the minute you use any other power, it automatically turns off. So, the other abilities we have is, we have Crush. Basically what it does is you launch a projectile that creates a big AoE shockwave explosion at the end. Very, very fun to do. We have this Telekinesis drone. Basically, you get a bubble around you that reduces the damage of ranged projectiles. So if you're up against a group of enemies that have like ranged projectiles, pop that, it'll start reducing their damage. Very helpful to do. Plus, as you're moving around, it will stay with you and travel with you. So if you need to and you start losing a lot of health, you pop that dome and then you can just retreat while that reduces the damage. Shockwave. Basically go around an area and boom. Cooldown on it is very quick. You could very much use this as even your primary if you wanted. Like, I can walk up here and just instantly destroy everything around me. A sail is just basically launching one giant boulder at something, and it will instantly destroy any sort of cover item or anything like that that you can hide behind. So if they're hiding behind something and you can't shoot them, shoot a sail at it and it will instantly destroy whatever they're hiding behind. Maelstrom is a little interesting. So if we come over here where all these destructive barrels are, and I hold this down, as you can see, it just instantly just lights everything up. But look how fast our warp heat goes up. Extremely quickly. It's just like any other channeled psychic ability. It'll just go and instantly just build up that warp heat. So watch using it. Use it only if you're surrounded by enemies and you instantly have to kill stuff. Like, watch here. Instantly there. This group up here, instantly dead. This group here, I can hit him with Shockwave and then boom. Hit him with Crush. Let's activate this and then, yeah, we're going to take less damage and then go from there. And then we're just going to use this to move around. The nice thing about levitation is you can have a power or a blessing activated when you turn it on.
Is that a good or a bad omen?
Shut up. Ready to fight. So if you have your blessings already activated before you hit levitation, you can chain that together. So levitation is a very good one to have. So, but that is all for the subclasses of the Psycher group. So the only thing left is, I would say, just try experimenting with them. You can combine these powers together. You don't have to run just one grouping. You can go and you can mix Biomancy and Divination together. I mixed my Pyromancy class with the shield ability of the Divination. And I put the levitation in there so that I could move around the map a little bit faster. It's a very, very fun character class to build with as far as customization goes. It's a lot more in-depth and advanced in that you have all these options. That's why I said it's going to be a 2-part episode. But hopefully you guys did enjoy it, and hopefully this explains a little bit better what each of these powers does. But like I said, if you guys are still curious, try experimenting for yourself. See what combinations work for you. For me, I'm still kind of a firebug. I like my pyromancy. I like my pyromancy with an invincible shield and, yeah, the ability to fly around the battlefield. So, yeah. But hopefully you guys... Quiet, you. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. And I will see you all in the next episode. Have a good day.